Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So yesterday's video I talked about the Kha'Zix changes that came out in this patch 6.2. And I thought it'd be pretty cool to talk about Rengar in the next video because, you know, Rengar Kha'Zix being rivals and all that stuff. But luckily for me, there's actually quite a good reason to talk about Rengar because he recently just got nerfed. So essentially I want to talk about his nerfs with you guys. I want to have more or less a discussion. I want to talk about unhealthy champions and is Rengar considered one of them. So after you're done listening to the video, make sure to write down below in the comments what do you think of the Rengar changes and do you think he's an unhealthy type champion? And make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed these kind of videos and want more. So let's get right into the meat of things. What makes an unhealthy champion? What is an unhealthy champion? Well, long story short, an unhealthy champion are ones that have a kit which cannot be balanced well enough through straight modification of their numbers. So how much damage they do, maybe how long a certain buff lasts, or things like that. And so with that being said, a lot of unhealthy champions in League of Legends tend to be either very weak or very strong. Since Riot will still try to nerf the numbers on their abilities, but rarely will it put them in a good spot or a spot that can be widely considered to be balanced. Now I think it goes without saying that this term feels like to many people that it does apply to assassin style champions more often than not, due to their kit consisting of several ways to kill a target. And well, I mean, naturally they just simply excel at going to a target and killing them within a couple of seconds and doing it very well. And a lot of people will see this type of mechanic and champions as simply just not fun, or in other words, not healthy. However, not a lot of the assassin champions are actually considered unhealthy because, well, there tends to be more than one way to prevent them from being able to successfully assassinate their target. And that essentially is what it boils down to when talking about whether or not a champion is unhealthy. I mean, sure, they might be overpowered, but they're only overpowered if they're played to their maximum potential. But the real question is, can the champion be stopped? Can the champion be outplayed and prevented in one way or another? Or is there really next to nothing you can do about it? So one example of something that was considered unhealthy among assassins way back when was silence abilities. So for instance, way back when Talon's E ability was actually able to silence his targets, Riot deemed that to be unhealthy and changed it to a slow instead of a silence, because now there is a form of counterplay to Talon whenever he goes all in on a target. Because when you're silenced, I mean, you lose control of your target essentially, you cannot use any ability, you cannot use any summoner spell, and you are just a sitting duck for those few seconds until the silence wears off. And when a champion with a kit that excels at destroying you in a couple of seconds, especially within the time limit of being silenced, well, I mean, there's just not a whole lot of things you can do. And Rengar definitely did fall into this category prior to this patch, but we'll go more into that in just a little bit. So when talking about such champions, ones that can be considered unhealthy at certain stages of the game, or maybe their kit seems unfun to play against, some of the champions that will come to your mind are champions such as Talon, maybe Kha'Zix, LeBlanc, Rengar, and Zed. And before we jump into talking about Rengar, I want to quickly talk about Zed because I want to give you guys an example of what maybe is considered to be a healthy type assassin. Now, I'm not using Zed as a healthy assassin because I made him, I don't want him to be touched or nerfed or anything like that, trust me. I'm using him as an example because, well, that is exactly what Riot did in the not so far past. They themselves have stated that they think Zed is among the healthiest assassins in the game. Now, before people start complaining and maybe bringing out their pitchforks now that I said that, I mean, let's quickly talk about it. Now, I know a lot of people hate facing champions like Zed because he has high mobility, he has high damage, a lot of outplay potential, but if you really think about it, sure, he has all of these great positives in his kit that make him seem very strong, but not only do you actually have to use these abilities properly, since for example his Q, his main damaging spell throughout his kit consistently is a skill shot, but the strengths in his kit are easily evened out by the negatives in his kit as well. I mean, he doesn't really offer any CC for his team. His kit does, like I said, rely on landing his Q, which is something that can be outplayed by an enemy. His ultimate, which is his main source of damage when it comes to actually assassinating a target, can easily be countered by maybe an item, several abilities in the game like Lissandra or Kayle ultimate, things like Zillion ultimate, Aatrox passive, or simply CCing him down the second he appears from his ultimate because, well, he does need those few seconds after using his ultimate in order to actually stack up the damage. Or you can even use abilities such as the Flash, maybe using a dashing ability like maybe Lucian for instance, or Ezreal at the right time to avoid further damage as Zed finally appears from his ultimate, which again with proper timing can be done very successfully. Now this isn't to say that he is an easy champion to face, and I mean like any other assassin, if he does snowball, yes, he will be very strong and very hard to deal with whether or not you have the counters for him. That is just the nature of assassin champions and their kit. But there are many ways to outplay him or counter him, which is why Riot deems him as a healthy assassin. But if we switch over the focus onto Rengar instead, well, it gets a bit more complicated. His kit not only involved him having one of the strongest assassinations in the game in terms of just the speed of the kill from the moment he jumps out of his ultimate and onto his target, but his ultimate also provides him invisibility and move speed. So it is difficult to see him coming, and well, by the time you do, you're probably going to be dead regardless, assuming you're playing a squishy type champion. Also, Rengar was and still sort of is able to perform a lot of his actions that are within his assassination combo while he is still mid-jump and upon landing. So whether that is using his E ability mid-air to snare his target and follow up with the rest of the damage, or just going in for the triple Q full combo straight from his ultimate. It is all done within a couple of seconds, and it's all done really before the opponent has much time to react to it. For instance, an ADC champion, a champion that Rengars tend to usually go for the kill on, if their flash is down, they really cannot do anything about him jumping on him, since Q assess simply will not help them, and Zhonya's isn't something that they can build or maybe should build. But the question still lies. Was or is Rengar unhealthy? Have the nerfs this patch made him healthier, or at least balanced? It is definitely hard to say, and I don't know for sure, but it does feel like the changes are a step in the right direction. Similar to what Riot did to Talon and his E ability in terms of counterplay and what they're doing to Rengar now, the similarities of the types of nerfs are there. So the reason I bring up Rengar and the term unhealthy is, well, is he unhealthy? Because, well, he's been a hot topic for the past few patches of just how strong he can really be and how little you can do about him getting strong. Is he a champion that can be brought to a balanced spot strictly through the alterations of his numbers in his kit? Such as maybe lowering the damage on his Q, maybe lowering the damage on his E, maybe the W, maybe reducing the time he has in his invisibility and things like that. Riot cannot change the way his kit works because, well, that will just simply change his playstyle, and that's not something they want to do. At the end of the day, he still has to feel and play like Rengar because, well, he's Rengar. But personally, I do think the changes to his ultimate, where the exclamation mark now has a greater range so that it gives people more time to react and see him coming, is a step in the right direction. And also how they delayed the bola strike so that he cannot snare targets as easily mid-jump of his ultimate is also quite a good change because, again, it offers a small window of the opponent being able to react to it and essentially counterplay Rengar. Riot also changed the way his Q works from nerfing the burst damage on it to increasing the overall sustained damage on it if a fight were to drag on for a few more seconds. So it feels like Riot is trying to make Rengar not as bursty, but open up windows of counterplay to his kit and just make it more possible for him to stop from doing what he wants successfully with little to no retaliation from his opponents. Now the question is that I asked at the beginning of the video and throughout the video as well, did they do this in the right way, and is Rengar still considered unhealthy? So that's the topic at hand that I want to talk to you guys about in this video. Again, let me know down below what you think about this. I mean, do you think Rengar is unhealthy? Do you think the changes this patch were enough? What do you think? But thank you all so much for watching, especially if you watched the whole video from start to finish. Again, make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this, definitely share with your friends, check out the other videos as well, subscribe if you haven't, all that good stuff. And here are my 3 favorite answers to the question from the previous video, which was, what do you think about the Kha'Zix buffs in patch 6.2? Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace!